This is a debate that pops up a lot in the pop cultural realm, which is the preferable cinematic universe today. And what that cinematic universe that is, you know, most preferable when it comes to audience and critic ratings, Marvel or DC. And I'm not talking about like a few years ago or back when the MCU only had like one crossover event, which was the first Avengers, or when DC only had The Dark Knight and Man of Steel as a part of their little portfolio. Well, I wouldn't call it little, but you get the point. It's really a matter of which cinematic universe is ahead today in 2022, Marvel or DC. First and foremost, let's take a glance at what the MCU has released this year, and then take a look at what DC has also released this same year. We had Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which released on May 6, 2022. Now, you have to understand that there was a lot of hype surrounding this one movie, especially after Loki, WandaVision, and Spider-Man No Way Home. However, here's what concerned me. Multiverse of Madness got a 6.9 out of 10, 69 without the decimal, 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes, which doesn't sound bad at all. But if you compare that score for Multiverse of Madness to Spider-Man No Way Home, which had 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb and a whooping 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, then the bottom line is Doctor Strange is mediocre by pale comparison, which isn't good because that's almost like Endgame underperforming Infinity War. It should actually be the other way around. The Multiverse of Madness is to amp up the success of No Way Home, because No Way Home is what built up to this very movie in the first place. It's all meant to be a climatic event. So, I mean, to have Doctor Strange underperform in the not the box office, but when it comes to reviews, well, that basically means that something is wrong. And why should it have been wrong? Because again, No Way Home and Doctor Strange belong in one shared multiversal saga. So I mean, that kind of hurt Marvel's chance to kickstart the year on a successful note. How about Batman, which I contend is one of the best comic book movies that I've seen in a long time? Well, the Batman, of course, starring Robert Pattinson, the Twilight Boy, has a higher rating by just 1.9 on IMDb compared to Doctor Strange. And on Rotten Tomatoes, there is actually a consensus with the critics and audience score, which is kind of rare in this industry, because the Batman is at least 80%. You know what? Let's keep it at 85% to be generous, because it's actually at 87% with the audience scores. So anyway, Batman has consolidated the victory when it came to the popular vote against Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness of 2022. Not to keep track of points or anything, but that means that so far, DC is in the lead, 1-0. Let's see if that is gonna change or stay the same. How about Thor Love and Thunder, which I found to be a fun movie. It may have been too short, and it may have had some shortcomings, but it was a decent movie, all in all. Well, it got a 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb. Again, I am not seeing any 7s or 8s on IMDb, which is pretty low for Marvel. And then if you look at the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it is now resting at 77%, which is higher than Doctor Strange, but not by much. As for DC, Marvel has actually jumped ahead of DC when it came to the amount of movies that they released this year. For a matter of fact, DC made this awesome trailer where they advertised the Batman, the Aquaman sequel, Black Adam, The Flash, all in one preview. And it was just thrilling because by then the Batman even hasn't come out yet. It was going to come out 2 weeks from then. But then they delayed Aquaman until next year. And on top of that, they plan to distribute Shazam, Fury of the Gods in international theaters, but then they also delayed that to 2023, which meant that after Batman, the only DC movie that was left was Black Adam. And as we can see now, Black Adam is resting with a 39% score on Rotten Tomatoes. But if you look at the audience score, not the critic score, which is that 39%, it actually got 89%, which is higher than Thor and Doctor Strange combined. And then we have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. If you want to know my thoughts on it, be sure to watch the past 2 episodes of the Cinema Courtroom, which is where I talk about Wakanda Forever in all of its non-spoiler and spoilery goodness. Anyway, Black Panther Wakanda Forever went home with a 95% audience score, which now puts Marvel at a tie with DC when it comes to a general consensus of how much of the audience enjoyed what movie. I have the perfect tiebreaker to square the Marvel vs. DC debate for 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Which studio put more emphasis on an authentic screenplay and not just releasing movies to sell popcorn? So forget about the other reviews. What do I have to say when it comes to Marvel vs. DC? Well, it pains me to admit that as a Marvel fan, I think the crown belongs to DC this year as the preferable cinematic universe of 2022. Granted, this isn't really a high bar because I feel like both studios as of late haven't been performing consistently in general. DC has an organization problem, while Marvel has a fundamental issue when it comes to a quantity over quality mishap. So, those are flaws to be had by both universes for sure. And when eradicated, those movies have the potential to be something pretty great. What do you think of this consensus? I would also be interested to read your thoughts on what who you thought deserved to win the ratings competition. Marvel or DC? Whatever your insights and thoughts are, let me know in the comment section below or our Twitter inbox at Cinema Courtroom.